Sometimes, the moment you choose faith is the moment everything starts to fight back. It is called the test of faith, as if a contrary wind is blowing against you while you are trying to row your boat forward. And that was the best way to describe the next phase Eliana went through. Now, she found herself back again in front of the mirror. The same mirror, the same sticker, the same words. She looked at herself, took a breath, and said it again. I am Eliana. I am just, and I live by faith, not by sight. But this time, nothing moved. No feeling, no confirmation, just calm. A strange, quiet calm, as if her words had not yet touched anything, as if they carried no weight in the unseen. Nothing changed, only silence. Then the storm came. Not all at once, but gradually. One problem barely giving Eliana the time to wrap her head around it before another one followed. And then another. The saying, the calm before the storm, it was true. By this point, Eliana had been out of work for about 17 months. 17 months of waiting, of hoping, of stretching what little she had left. Her savings were almost gone. What remained was barely enough to feed herself, and even that felt uncertain. Everywhere the news was the same. The economy was struggling, jobs were scarce, opportunities were shrinking. It was the kind of news people talked about constantly, but once it had meant very little to her. Because when something doesn't touch you directly, you assume you are somehow exempt, as if it applies to others, but not to you. That had been Eliana. Back when she had a job, she heard the news, but didn't feel it. It was just information, distant, unrelated. But now, everything had changed. Now she heard every word, felt every headline, understood every statistic. Because now, she was part of it. Not watching from the outside, but living it. And yet, she refused to let herself be defined by it. She could not afford to count herself among the numbers. Not now, not anymore, because she had chosen something different. Faith. The kind of faith that doesn't deny reality but refuses to be ruled by it. The kind of faith that holds on even when everything around you suggests otherwise. She reminded herself again and again, not based on the economy, not based on statistics, not based on what she could see, but based on who God is, according to his riches in glory. Yes, she whispered quietly. That is who I am. I am Eliana. I am just, and I live by faith. Choosing to believe what the word says, regardless of what life looked like. And Sunday came again. But this time, something was different. She knew she could not do this alone. She needed other believers around her. She needed to hear the word again and again. She needed to be in the right atmosphere, an atmosphere where her faith could grow. So she got up, slowly, intentionally, and began to prepare for church. And that morning, she was grateful that she went, because as the pastor began to speak, it felt as though he knew, as though every word was meant for her. No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, He will also provide a way of escape, so that you may be able to endure it. And the pastor repeated it again and again and again, as if he was trying to press those words deep into their hearts. And Eliana needed it. She needed to hear it more than once. She needed something louder than her circumstances, louder than the bills, louder than the fear, louder than the silence. And for the first time in a long time, something broke through. Not everything, not all at once, but enough. Enough to lift her, enough to steady her, enough to remind her that she was not alone, that God had not left her, that Jesus was waiting for her in church that day and gave her the word she needed to hear, that this season was not the end. And when she left church that day, she felt different. Not because everything had changed, but because she had. She walked out feeling lighter, stronger, steadier, like she could face whatever came next. And this time, she meant it. Monday morning came, and this time, she was ready. Ready to try again. She sat down, preparing herself to go back to applying for jobs. But just as she settled, just as she began, the doorbell rang, sharp, unexpected, interrupting the moment. She stood up slowly, walked to the door, and opened it. It was the mailman, a letter in his hand. She took it, closed the door, and for a moment, just stared at it. Something about it felt heavy. She opened it, and as her eyes moved across the page, everything inside her dropped. An eviction notice. She had been given 1 month. 1 month to leave. The room felt different instantly. Smaller, tighter. Her chest sank. Her breath slowed. And for a moment, she just stood there, still. She knew this moment mattered. More than the letter, more than the problem. The way she responded mattered. Because this was the test. But what she knew to do, and what she felt like doing, stood at opposite ends of the same crossroads. She felt like breaking, like crying loudly, like letting everything out, like giving in to the weight of it all. But instead, she paused, took a breath, and made herself move. She walked to the couch, sat down slowly, closed her eyes, and willed her mind to be still, even if only for a moment. Then softly, she spoke. I am Eliana. I am just, and I live by faith, not by sight. Her voice was quiet, but steady. She doesn't feel strong, but she has chosen to stand. And then she stopped speaking and let the silence return. But this time, it felt different. Not empty, not crushing, just quiet. And slowly, the tears came. Not loud, not chaotic, just quiet tears rolling down her face. As she sat there, holding on to the only thing she had left, faith. For a moment, there was quiet. Not the silence of defeat, but the silence of someone holding themselves together. And then she moved again, because she had to. Eliana went back to her laptop, back to the search. This time, she doubled her effort, applying everywhere, every role, every opportunity, even the ones she knew she was underqualified for. At this point, it wasn't about preference, it was about survival. She typed, clicked, submitted, again and again, refusing to stop, refusing to give in. But then, the calls started. One after another. Numbers she didn't recognize. Voices she didn't want to hear. Miss Eliana, this is regarding your outstanding balance. Her stomach tightened. Repossession. Again. Another weight. Another pressure. She ended the call slowly, but they didn't stop. Another call came, then another, each one louder than the last. Each one trying to pull her attention back to fear. And then another message came, this time from her car company. A notice, clear, direct. If payment was not made, the car would be taken. She looked out the window, at the car still parked, and she felt it again. That pressure, that tightening in her chest, that voice trying to rise up inside her. Just give up. This is too much. She recognized it, because now she understood. These moments were not random. They were tests, pressures designed to pull her back into complaining, back into fear, back into doubt. Because she knew if she returned there, her faith would weaken. And if she allows her faith to weaken, she would lose out on her breakthrough. When you lean on God's grace, it really does come through for you. Not always loudly, not always in ways you expect, but quietly, faithfully, just as He said it would. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Those words were no longer just scripture to Eliana. They were becoming her reality. Because when she looked back, she realized something. The calm she had been holding on to was not her own strength. It wasn't discipline, it wasn't willpower. It was grace. The kind of grace that steadies you when everything inside you wants to fall apart. The kind that holds you when you don't even realize you're being held. She knew it now. She could not have remained this calm through everything she had faced without God's help, without His grace working quietly beneath the surface. And then, something shifted. 2 emails came in, from applications she had sent out, simple messages, but different from the others. They wanted to see her. Interviews, scheduled, confirmed. After months of silence, it felt like a small opening, a ray of hope breaking through the weight. She read the emails again, just to be sure. Then again, as if they might disappear. But they stayed. And for a moment, her heart lifted. Not fully, but enough. Enough to remind her that something was still moving. Even if slowly, even if quietly. Then her phone rang. A familiar name. Mum. She paused before answering, because lately, those calls had been rare. Not because she didn't care, but because she had been hiding her struggle, hiding her reality, trying to protect them from worrying about her. They already had enough. Her father had been unwell for some time, but recently he had been stable, responding well to treatment. So when her mum spoke, something felt different. Her voice wasn't steady. It wasn't calm. "He's been taken to the hospital. He got an infection. They had to move him quickly." Eliana's heart dropped, suddenly, without warning. "He's in intensive care now." Those words echoed in her mind, louder than anything else. This was the lowest moment. Not the bills, not the eviction, not the pressure. This was different, because this was family. This was her father. And the hardest part was knowing she couldn't even go, because she couldn't afford it. Not the travel, not the expenses, not even the basics. She felt it again, that heaviness, that weariness. But deeper this time. She wanted to be there, to sit beside her mother, to hold her hand, to be present. But even as the thought came, another truth followed. Her presence would only be comfort. It would ease her mother's heart, but it wouldn't change what her father needed, because what he needed now was beyond her, beyond doctors, beyond circumstances. What he needed was God. And in that moment, Eliana made a decision. If she could not go physically, she would go spiritually. If she could not be there, she would stand in prayer. She sat down quietly, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. The room was still, but this time, the silence felt different. "God," she whispered, "you are the one who heals. You are the one who restores. I may not be there, but you are, and that is enough." And as she prayed, something settled in her. Not answers, not solutions, but peace. The kind of peace that only grace can give. Stay tuned for episode 4. Please subscribe and share.